Hey guys, this is Skylar Randolph here checking in for digital literacy, and this is my Mythbusters assignment. Alright, I had a really fun time doing this assignment. I thought it was a really cool, interesting assignment to do. The myth that I chose for this assignment was Mr. Walt Disney. Now, I'm not sure if a lot of you have heard this, but growing up in the Orlando area, I've heard or once or twice before that Walt Disney, after his death, he actually froze his body and that it's underground somewhere underneath the theme park, or I've actually heard that it's somewhere in the castle, in Cinderella's castle. Now, me personally, I don't believe the myth. I never believed it. I always thought it was absurd. I thought it was crazy talk. People just talking just to talk. But I never did the research on it, and now that I have the Mythbusters assignment, I have a perfectly good reason to do research on it. So I thought this would be, a good time to share with you guys what I learned. Well, the myth that his body is frozen underground somewhere, I'm here to tell you folks, is not true. He died on December 15th, 1966 in California. He died from lung cancer, and his body was actually cremated, and that fact is actually signed on his death certificate with the help of Snopes.com, which was a very good factual informational site in regards to the urban myths that we had to choose from. But after conducting my own research on the EBSCOhost library database and through other passages and articles that I might have found on Google for a more general search, I've come to find out that they pretty much, in general, all said the same thing. Mr. Walt Disney was a very secretive man. There's not too many people or articles that I've read that have too many eyewitness accounts with Mr. Walt Disney. There's not too many people who sat down with him that it actually says, wrote about his life or anything like that. They even said that his death was very secretive and that the announcement of his death wasn't until after the fact and people didn't know where, how, or when this happened. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, it's pretty logical why they didn't just release, his, the information about his death. I mean, he runs Disney World. Like, they can't just announce. They'll have reporters in the, in the hallways and out front of, his, I don't know, people's homes out and stuff like that. The people who were running Disney for him at the time didn't even know yet. So, I guess that's pretty understandable. But this was a two-part question for me. The first question that I've already answered for you guys, was he actually frozen and is he underneath the ground somewhere? No. The second question that I had that I wanted to ask, that I asked myself was, well, where's the origin behind this rumor? Like, who just woke up one day and said that his body was frozen underground? I mean, obviously there has to be some sort of, foundation for that somewhere. And so what I found was very interesting. Walt Disney, um, he shied away from death, which a lot of us would. I mean, nobody likes death. Death freaks people out. People don't like to talk about death. They shy away from death. And actually, in one of the passages that I read, which was the Disney Way of Death, that I found on EBSCOhost, it's called the Disney Way of Death. It talked about that, and it talked about how how he was traumatized by the death of his mother, because after he moved his mother into his new Hollywood home, she died shortly, like 2 months after the move, and he never forgave himself for that. And for that, and along with his own medical problems, he was scared of death. It freaked him out, and they made a pretty good tie between that and Epcot. Now, if you've been living in Orlando, you know of Epcot. They pretty much call it, the city of tomorrow or the way of tomorrow or something like that. But to Walt Disney, Epcot was the future. Um, Excuse me. In that passage that I read, it actually said that if there was one thing that Walt Disney could see, grow and flourish while he was on Earth, would be the growth and development of his theme park Epcot that he has inside Disney World. So the tie that they made with Mr. Walt Disney and Epcot was somewhat to the point where Mr. Walt Disney, since he was afraid of death, that after his death, not even going into that, before his death, actually, there, the freezing of the organs in the body was actually being practiced, and it was pretty much talked about. It was highly talked about during that time frame. Cryogenesis, or cryogenics, I believe it's called. Excuse me. And basically, they said that Mr. Walt Disney really got interested in that. Now that, and then along with a lot of the secrets regarding his death, made people believe and fed into the rumor that he froze himself after his death, which is entirely not true. They also claimed that the fact that he decided to freeze himself, he figured that once he's frozen for these, many and many of years that have gone by, that the medical advances that we made, in our society, he would be able to reanimate. Those doctors would be able to reanimate Walt Disney, and he would come back into this brand new world that he always envisioned, which was Epcot overall. On a small scale, there's just Epcot at the theme park. But he figured, if the scientists can bring him back to life, he envisioned a world where it was sanitary, clean, and at the same time we were making, technology advances in life to help us with certain things to get better transportation. So he envisioned the world as Epcot in the 1960s somewhere. And that's where that claim actually started from. The best resources that I used for this research assignment, I feel, I don't want to say it was Snopes.com, because Snopes.com seems like it's only relative to urban myths. But they did have some really good fun facts, and I used that as a foundation to search other facts. But I would say EBSCOhost did a really good job, because I ended up doing some research and I found this article, and it really gave me better insight onto the origin of this rumor. The most interesting thing that I found so far about Mr. Walt Disney was he just seemed unhappy. And it's kind of crazy because it completely contradicts everything that's portrayed. As far as Disney World, the channel, the clothing, the characters, everything, the happiest place on earth. He just didn't seem like a very happy man, off of some of the pieces that I read, and I just found that interesting, and it just kind of made me realize that, everybody has problems, like everybody has issues, and he was just finding a way to cope with his. So I found that to be really interesting. But all in all, I really enjoyed doing the project. I thought it was really fun. I think Snopes.com is a really cool website. I think everybody should go check that out. So yeah, I'm just giving my take on the project. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you get a chance, check out Walt Disney. So there's some really cool, interesting facts on there. All right. So my name's Skylar, and I'm signing out. This is Digital Literacy Mythbusters.